I'd like to take a moment and ask you to consider, what's your greatest achievement? It might be professional, it might be personal, but chances are you didn't achieve that alone. We are typically reliant on other people and organizations in our pursuit of an audacious goal. We don't normally get there alone, do we? And yet, too often in the nonprofit sector, we see examples of nonprofit organizations who are going it alone, trying to be all things to all people. And when you would try to achieve excellence across the board in disciplines in which you don't have the expertise, you actually achieve mediocrity. But what if we saw a different paradigm? What if we explored for a moment the concept of partnering in the nonprofit sector? There are 1.5 million nonprofit organizations operating today. 110,000 of those are dedicated to human service needs. We have 38,000 that are dedicated to health, 36,000 dedicated to housing, 30,000 dedicated to the arts, 15,000 to environment and animals. So many of their missions actually overlap and intersect, and yet too few are partnering with one another to do greater things. Now, why is that? We've explored this, we've looked at research, and we think there are three commonly understood myths that prevent nonprofit organizations and their leaders from pursuing partnerships. One, we exist almost exclusively on the benevolence of individuals, foundations, and corporations to support our operations and do the work that we're designed to do. And if we partner with another organization, we are oftentimes concerned that they might look a little bit better than we do as we partner in the work that we are doing. And if they look a little bit better than we do, maybe our donors might be more interested in supporting them. So that's myth number one. Myth number two is that it's a drain on our resources. Many nonprofits operate on a very lean budget and a very lean staff structure. And so the idea of incorporating partnership as a key piece to the operations seems to be a distraction from the mission and the program. That's myth number two. Myth number three, I believe, is maybe the most powerful reason that nonprofits apply to not wanting to partner. And that is the idea that we must agree on everything in order for us to work together on anything. So let's break those down for a moment. First of all, what we know from research, interviews of donors, 69% of the United States is a donor to a nonprofit organization, and they contribute fabulously. Every year, over $400 billion contributed to the nonprofit world for any of those pursuits that I named earlier, and so many more. They support annually 4 to 7 nonprofit organizations. That number creeps up a little higher in good economic conditions, and it compresses a little bit to the lower numbers during harder economic times. But folks are able to absorb the responsibility of supporting multiple organizations. But what we know from studies and research that look into philanthropic patterns and test what is important to the donor community, they actually find that donors value organizations who do partnerships well, that they recognize that some organizations are experts in housing, but not in microfinance. They might be experts in health-related issues, but maybe not in education. But they also recognize that those issues, those needs overlap. So they value organizations who want to complete the circle of service to their community. They know it can't just be about safe housing. It can't just be about education. It must encompass all of those things together. And donors have said, we value organizations who value engagement with other nonprofits. So it doesn't distract your donors. It actually complements and encourages them to continue to support your work and to be aligned with your mission. The second myth, and let's break that down, is the idea that it drains resources from your organization. And certainly that would be true if all you were looking to do was check a box and say, we partner. But it isn't embedded into the fabric of what you really do. It is not inherent to how you do your work and execute on your strategy. But the amount of information that you will glean, how much you will learn, how much you will expand your knowledge, your understanding of an issue or a community through those partnerships is almost immeasurable. And so it doesn't drain your resources, it actually replenishes them and builds them up into greater resources. You are able to do more because you're partnered with others. Their experiences and yours, how they contribute to your partner's experience and their understanding, is so mutually beneficial that you can see a different world. You can see new ideas and new creativity coming forward on how you can better serve those that you are designed to impact. I think most significantly, however, is our final myth, and that is the idea that we must agree on everything in order to work together on something. And what we have found to be true is very diverse and disparate organizations and people can actually agree on a mutually aligned issue and achieve great things without having to endorse the theological views of the other, the political views of the other, or even their strategies or their operations. But if you have a mutually aligned issue, it could be violence prevention, it could be child welfare, it could be any number of things, that we agree on that, and we can bring our collective resources and understandings and operational skill sets, you can do greater things together. It doesn't feel that way. I feel probably much like you do, that we live in an environment in which things are very tribal. We have retreated, whether it be politically, religiously, any number of descriptors, that we've kind of retreated into our camps. And we don't value doing things together or collaboration. We don't value compromise for the greater good. And as a consequence to that, we seem to achieve less. It's created a more frustrating environment to work and live in. And so I'd encourage you to think about partnering and collaborating, finding those mutual issues that are important to you and important to others, and thinking about what you can bring to that conversation. I am certain that you can do more if you do it with others. We know that to be true in our personal lives. We know it to be true as leaders of organizations. So let's think about how we partner with one another to achieve something bigger, something greater, more impactful and longer lasting than we can do on our own. I think what you're going to find is that your donors will be more inclined to give more. It will become a central part of how you do your operations. And you will find a whole new group and community of friends and colleagues that maybe you didn't think you had that much in common with. And it will enrich your existence. More importantly, those you serve will be better served. So thanks for what you're doing for the world and for your community as a leader of a nonprofit organization or as a donor to a nonprofit organization. You're important to us. And we want you to know that partnering is the future of how we do more, how we do it better, and how we can make our communities safer and healthier.